Conservatives once called out the left for cancel culture. Are they now embracing it?
So when you see someone celebrating Charlie's murder, call them out. And hell, call their employer. We don't believe in political violence, but we do believe in civility. And there is no civility in the celebration of political assassination.
A number of people have been fired or suspended from their jobs as a result of comments they made about Kirk after his death. College professors, American Airlines pilots, and NFL team employee. The administration has promised to take similar action against military service members. Joining me now in the group chat, Zolan Kano-Young's New York Times White House correspondent, Chuck Rocha, Democratic strategist, and Rob Bluey, president and executive editor of the Daily Signal. All right, so I wanted to talk to you guys about this for two reasons. First, there's just the idea of cancel culture, meaning you say something publicly, the consequence of that is perhaps some kind of doxing, finding you, and then trying to pressure your employer to fire you, okay? I'm going to use that as the definition and not like, are you a comedian who's back on tour? Okay, we're going to use that. So, Rob, to your mind, when you see people justifying doing this now, what do you make of their arguments? Does it feel somehow right in this context, but not right in the past context that the left talked about it?
Well, Ani, I agree with what Vice President JD Vance said there. I think there is a distinction between what you've seen in the past versus what you're seeing today. People who are celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk, I would put in a different category than others in the past who've been canceled for expressing their political views, which are far different from what you're seeing play out on social media platforms. The employers are ultimately going to make the decision if they want people to work for their companies that express those particular views. And Anadi,
does that argument sound familiar? It's up to the companies to fire the people. Like, it sounds familiar.
Sounds familiar.
From what we heard in the left in the 2010s, which is like, it's not cancel culture, it's consequent culture. And if you say something that in the public square is not valid or supported.
But I think the distinction is that you had, I had colleagues, you had social media companies suspending and removing these individuals, taking away their ability to even communicate. I mean, that's what conservatives were concerned about when it came to the social media censorship. I think that there's, again, I'm making a distinction here between what people are saying about Charlie Kirk than what people have done in the past who were canceled.
It's been hard sitting back and watching this and watching how the internet just stokes all of this almost for algorithmic, that's my word of the morning, to make people.
Financial incentive.
Absolutely, that's what I'm getting at. That was the long Rocha wind up to say that part of it, was like folks are getting paid to do this. But I also think about, like, I've tried to check myself. I think people trying to kill our president's horrible, killing Charlie Kirk's horrible, Nancy Pelosi's husband, all the things are horrible. But there's folks that say the craziest things when I sit back and know that they have the right. This is why soldiers died. They have the right, if they say crazy stuff, as long as they're not harming somebody, to say whatever they want. That's why we have the First Amendment. But also what they're saying is horrible about somebody who just died. And I really find myself internally, as a political consultant who gets paid to beat Republicans, it puts me in a place of like, how am I supposed to feel? I'm trying to feel what as a human feels, but I'm also getting paid to beat Republicans.
Okay, let me play for you a piece of tape. This is the U.S. Attorney General who was asked a question about hate speech versus free speech.
There's free speech and then there's hate speech. And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie, in our society. We will absolutely target you, go after you, if you are targeting anyone with hate speech.
And then I want to show you a tweet from a conservative activist, Eric Erickson. I won't repeat the first line because there's no need to insult the Attorney General, but he says, no, that is not the law. And I want to talk to you because it's one thing to say, employer, you're a private, take an action. There may be levers of the state that are brought to bear in going at defining and going after hate speech. What do you see in how the administration is talking about this?
Right. Those comments by the Attorney General, as well as the Vice President's guest hosting of Charlie Kirk's podcast yesterday, specifically when he invited Stephen Miller onto that podcast, that foreshadows actually something that goes beyond what we've seen in terms of cancel culture here. Stephen Miller said directly that they are intent on mobilizing the federal government to launch launch a crackdown here. Both him and the vice president described going after NGOs and a network that they are describing and alleging funds or supports this kind of agitation or violence. Now, they did not provide extensive evidence to actually back up those claims, but we have gotten indications from officials of what that actual crackdown could look like. Could it be, they've hinted that it could be targeting the tax-exempt status of some NGOs that they claim are funding these efforts. They've also talked about targeting those who have targeted Tesla stores and different
investigating them.
Investigation. We're talking about not just moving to pressure people on social media and even pressure employers to oust employees. We're talking about actually mobilizing the federal government to investigate those that the administration is saying are supporting violence, which again they haven't outlined evidence on, and which
you're
has
saying Evans, but also what is the definition? Who will define it? How will that be executed?
It wasn't too long ago where the Biden administration went after parents who were showing up at school board meetings, devout Catholics who attended Latin Mass, pro-life grandmothers who were protesting outside of abortion clinics. And so I don't think we should forget
that those things were deemed wrong and the administration shouldn't do it, or that now a new administration should do something similar, but to people who it also feels is violated.
I'm just saying, like, let's call that out as well. If we're going to criticize the Trump administration, we should also point out that the Biden administration came under fire for what it was doing. And as it pertains to some of those organizations, one of them, the most prominent, is the Southern Poverty Law Center, which has a hate map that put Charlie Kirk's organization, TPUSA, on that map. It was in 2012 that an individual went to the Family Research Council with that hate map in hand and tried to attack that organization. And so we know that these groups, when they do these types of things, do have consequences, real-life consequences that target conservatives.
On the right, there have been watch lists, so to speak. I guess what I'm wondering is, should the government go after specific groups on behalf of a staked-out political position? Or can the government break apart some of the ways we are using to go after each other? Meaning, should anyone have a list of anyone else, it is that right to do. I don't actually want a new list to be given to someone else. I want to know what the policy will be to address the fundamentals of the attention economy you're bringing up.
Right, and I think that that's the whole key of this, is that at some point, it's not going to be about his list or my list. It's got to be about, like, especially when somebody dies or when somebody almost dies, to say, okay, boys and girls, let's sit down together and figure this out, because if we continue to do a tit for tat or do hate against hate, we're just going to continue down this road, especially when people on the internet are making money off of it. This is the key, I think.
All right, you guys stay with me. We've got a lot more to talk about, and I appreciate you guys talking about this.